The cargo ship Morningstar looked small next to the massive asteroid, where Sora Kim had detected the strange energy readings. Taemin floated in the ship's docking bay, checking his spacesuit one more time. Beside him, Hyunwoo did the same, though his friend still thought this whole trip was a mistake. "I still can't believe you convinced me to come out here," Hyunwoo muttered through his helmet radio. "If the Dominion finds out we left Harmony Point without permission?" "They won't find out," Sora said, floating over to them. She was a small woman, but Taemin had learned that she commanded her ship with quiet confidence. "I've been running cargo to the Edge colonies for 10 years. I know how to avoid Dominion patrols." "What about your crew?" Taemin asked. "Myung-seo is the only other person on board, and she's the one who found this place. She's been studying the readings all week. My Young thinks there might be intact technology inside that asteroid." They pushed off from the ship and flew across the empty space using their suit thrusters. The asteroid was huge and dark, but Taemin's instruments showed it was hollow inside. Most strange of all, it was generating its own artificial gravity. "There," Myung's voice came over the radio from inside the ship. "On the far side, you should see an opening." They found a smooth circular entrance cut into the rock. It was clearly artificial, but it didn't match any alien architecture Taemin had studied. They passed through the opening and immediately felt their boots touch a metal floor as artificial gravity took hold. "The atmosphere is breathable," Hyunwoo said, reading his instruments. "Oxygen, nitrogen, normal pressure. Someone maintained this place." They removed their helmets and looked around. They were standing in a corridor that stretched into darkness. The walls were covered with symbols that seemed familiar, though Taemin couldn't read them. "These markings," he whispered. "They're similar to the ones on the gate fragments, but cleaner, more complete." They walked deeper into the structure. Emergency lights flickered on automatically as they moved, as if the place was welcoming them. After several minutes, they reached a large circular room filled with strange machines. "My God," Hyunwoo breathed. "What is this place?" In the center of the room stood something that looked like a gate control console, but it was nothing like the massive mechanical systems the Dominion used. This console was elegant and simple, covered with smooth surfaces that seemed to glow with their own light. Taemin approached it carefully. When he got close, symbols appeared on the surface. The same symbols they had seen on the walls, but now they were moving and changing. "It's responding to you," Myung's voice came over their radio from the ship. "I'm reading energy spikes every time you move closer." "But that's impossible," Hyunwoo said. "Gate technology requires genetic authorization codes from approved species. Humans don't have the right biological markers." As if to prove him wrong, the console suddenly came fully to life when Taemin stepped directly in front of it. Holographic displays filled the air around them, showing star maps and data streams that made Taemin's head spin. But then something incredible happened. The symbols on the displays began to change, shifting from the alien markings to something else. Something that looked almost like ancient human writing. "Taemin," Hyunwoo whispered. "Can you read any of that?" "Some of it," Taemin said, his voice shaking with excitement. "It's like very old human languages but mixed together. Look at this section. It's showing the location of other sites like this one." The holographic map showed dozens of hidden facilities scattered throughout human space and beyond. Most were marked as inactive, but a few still showed energy signatures. "There are more places like this," Myung said over the radio. "Hidden stations, secret bases. How is that possible? Humans have only been in space for a few hundred years." "Maybe," Taemin said slowly. "That's not true." They spent hours in the hidden station, copying data and trying to understand what they had found. The more they learned, the more impossible it seemed. The technology was clearly designed for humans. The interfaces responded to their touch. The displays showed information in ways human brains could easily process, and the artificial gravity was set to Earth normal. But according to every history book, humans had never built anything like this. "We need to get back," Sora finally announced. "I'm picking up Dominion patrol signals on long-range sensors. If they find us here..." They gathered as much data as they could carry and returned to the Morning Star. As they flew away from the asteroid, Taemin watched it disappear into the darkness and wondered how many more secrets were hidden in the empty spaces between stars. Back on Harmony Point, Taemin locked himself in his lab and began the long process of analyzing what they had found. The data was incredible, but it was also dangerous. If the Dominion Council learned that humans had access to advanced gate technology, they would see it as a threat to their power. Days passed as Taemin worked. He sent carefully coded messages to researchers on Earth and the colonies, sharing pieces of information without revealing too much. Slowly, a picture began to emerge. Other human scientists had found similar anomalies in their research: archaeological sites that didn't fit the official timeline, energy signatures in places where humans supposedly had never been, technology fragments with genetic markers that matched human DNA. Then came the message that changed everything. Dr. Park, this is Elder Kethmaros of the Vortaki Research Council. I must speak with you privately about your recent findings. What you have discovered is more significant than you realize, and it places your species in great danger. Meet me in Observation Deck 7 at midnight. Come alone. Taemin stared at the message. Elder Kethmaros was one of the most respected scientists in the galaxy, a crystalline being who had lived for over 1,000 years. Why would someone like that want to meet with a human researcher? At midnight, Taemin made his way to Observation Deck 7. The Vortaki Elder was waiting for him, his crystal body reflecting the starlight in rainbow patterns. Dr. Park, the Elder said in his musical voice, I have been watching your research with great interest and great concern. You know what I found? I know more than you might think. Sit down, young human. There are things you need to understand about your species' true history. Taemin sat on the metal bench, his heart racing. The Dominion Council has told your people that you are a young species, newly emerged and barely worthy of notice. This is not true. Your ancestors once ruled the stars, Dr. Park. They built the original gates, created technologies that we still use today, and spread across the galaxy in ways we can barely comprehend. That's impossible. Our records show... Your records show what the survivors remembered after the Great Disaster. 50,000 years ago, something happened to the ancient human civilization. They vanished almost overnight, leaving behind only scattered ruins and their descendants on a single world, Earth. Taemin felt the universe shift around him. You're saying humans built the gates? The humans who came before built the gates, yes. The Dominion species found these abandoned tools and learned to use them, but we never truly understood them. We built our empire on your ancestors' foundation. Why are you telling me this? Elder Kethmaros' crystal form dimmed with what might have been sadness. Because others have discovered the truth as well. The Hive Collective has been monitoring human activity. They know that your people are beginning to access the ancient technology. They see this as a threat to the current order. What does that mean? It means, Dr. Park, that your species' 6-month trial period is not really about proving your worth. It is about buying time while the Council decides whether to eliminate humanity entirely. Taemin stood up, his hands shaking. We have to warn Earth, we have to be very careful, the Elder interrupted. If the Council learns that you know the truth, they will act immediately. But there may be another way. The ancient sites you have found, they hold more than just historical interest. They may hold the key to your people's survival. As Taemin walked back to his quarters that night, his mind raced with possibilities. Humanity wasn't just fighting for acceptance into galactic society. They were fighting for their right to reclaim a heritage they never knew they had lost. Dr. Taemin Park pressed his face against the cold metal window of the research station. Stars filled the black space around him, but he knew most of them were forbidden to his kind. Humans could only visit a few worlds at the edge of the galaxy. The bright center, where all the important aliens lived, was off limits. Still looking at what you can't have? Asked Dr. Hyunwoo Choi as he walked into the lab. His friend carried 2 cups of coffee, both made from the cheap synthetic beans that human traders could afford. I'm thinking, Taemin said, taking the warm cup. Look at this data from the Kethmari expedition. They found more gate fragments in the Vega system. Hyunwoo sat down at the computer next to him. The screen showed pictures of broken metal pieces floating in space. They looked old and worn, covered in strange marks that no one could read. Another dead civilization, Hyunwoo said with a shrug. The galaxy is full of them. Species rise up, build some technology, then disappear. That's why the Dominion Council exists, to make sure the same mistakes don't happen again. Taemin frowned. Something about the metal pieces bothered him, but he couldn't say what. These fragments, they're different from the others. Look at the energy readings. Before Hyunwoo could answer, an alarm rang through the station. A voice spoke over the speakers in the formal tone used for important announcements. All human personnel report to the main assembly hall. Priority 1 message from Earth. Taemin and Hyunwoo looked at each other. Priority 1 messages were rare. The last one had been 3 years ago when the Dominion Council had reduced human trading rights by 30%. They walked through the station corridors with dozens of other humans. The research station called Harmony Point was supposed to be neutral ground where all species could work together. But Taemin noticed that the alien workers, the tall, thin Vortaki with their crystal skin, the floating gas creatures called ethereals, and the heavy, armored Saros all seemed to know something the humans didn't. In the assembly hall, a large screen showed the face of Jae-sung Lee, Earth's only representative to the Dominion Council. His usually calm expression looked worried. Citizens of Earth and her colonies, Jae-sung began. I have received an official communication from High Arbiter Vextar of the Dominion Council. Effective immediately, humanity has been placed under review for reassessment. Murmurs filled the room. Reassessment was a nice word for something that could be very bad. The Council has given us 6 standard months to prove our species deserves continued access to galactic commerce. We must demonstrate what they call evolutionary worthiness and peaceful integration potential. If we fail this test, Jae-sung paused, his voice getting heavier. If we fail, humanity will be restricted to the Sol system permanently. All colonies will be evacuated. All trading rights will be revoked. The room erupted in angry voices. Someone shouted about the unfairness of it all. Another person demanded to know what humanity had done wrong. Taemin just sat in his chair thinking about those metal fragments. Quiet, please, Jae-sung continued. I know this is difficult news, but we have 6 months. We can do this. The Council wants to see evidence of our technological advancement, our cultural development, and our ability to contribute to galactic peace. Every human, wherever you are, whatever your job, we need your help. The transmission ended, leaving the humans in the assembly hall to argue among themselves. Most were angry, some seemed scared. A few looked defeated as if they had expected this day to come eventually. Taemin stood up to leave, but Hyunwoo grabbed his arm. Where are you going? Back to the lab. Those fragments, I think they might be important. Taemin, we just learned that our entire species might be kicked out of the galaxy. Some old metal pieces aren't going to help us now. But Taemin was already walking away. He had spent his whole life studying dead civilizations and their leftover technology. The Dominion Council controlled everything through their gates. Huge machines that could bend space and create shortcuts between star systems. Without the gates, traveling between worlds would take hundreds of years instead of hours. Back in the lab, Taemin pulled up all the data he had collected over the past 5 years. Fragment after fragment, piece after piece of broken technology from extinct species. The Dominion always said these were primitive attempts to copy gate technology. Failed experiments by species that weren't smart enough to build the real thing. But as Taemin looked at the data with fresh eyes, he began to see patterns. The metal compositions were similar across different sites. The energy signatures matched in ways that suggested they weren't copies of gate technology. They might be older versions of it. His computer chimed with an incoming message. The sender was Captain Sora Kim of the cargo ship Morning Star. Doctor Park, I hope you remember me from the Titan Station conference last year. I'm sending this message from the edge of human space, near the old mining colonies. We've found something strange out here. Energy readings that don't match anything in the databases. My engineer thinks it might be related to your area of expertise. Can you take a look at the attached data? Taemin opened the attached files. His breath caught in his throat. The energy signatures were almost identical to the ones from the gate. Fragments, but these readings were coming from something that was still active. He immediately sent a reply to Sora. Captain Kim, whatever you found, don't report it to the Dominion authorities yet. I need to study this data first. Can you stay in that area for a few more days? Her response came back quickly. Doctor, I've been flying cargo ships for 15 years. I know when something might be dangerous for humans to report. We'll stay here and keep scanning. But be careful who you trust with this information. Taemin spent the rest of the night analyzing the data. The more he studied it, the more convinced he became that Sora had found something incredible, something that might change everything humans thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. As dawn broke over Harmony Point, artificial dawn, created by the station's light systems, Taemin realized he faced a choice. He could report his findings to the Dominion authorities and hope they would give humanity credit for the discovery. Or he could keep the secret and investigate further, risking everything if he was caught. He thought about Jae-Sung Lee's worried face on the screen. 6 months to prove humanity's worth. Maybe the answer wasn't in showing the aliens how good humans could be at following their rules. Maybe it was in discovering something that would force the aliens to see humans differently. Taemin made his decision. He encrypted all his research files and sent a coded message to his sister on Earth. If something happened to him, at least someone would know what he had found. Then he began planning a trip to the edge of human space. Captain Sora Kim was right. To be careful. In a galaxy where power meant everything, information could be the most dangerous weapon of all. Outside his window, the forbidden stars seemed to shine a little brighter. Yujin An's fingers moved across the keyboard faster than most people could think. Hidden deep in an asteroid mining station in the belt, she was humanity's best codebreaker, and right now she was working on the most important puzzle of her life. Any luck with the ancient files? Asked Donghyun Nam, looking over her shoulder. The former Earth military officer had spent the last 5 years building a secret network of humans throughout the colonies. Now that network was more important than ever. Getting closer, Yujin said, not taking her eyes off the screen. The data Taemin sent us from that hidden station. It's not just random information. It's a complete database, but it's locked, with some kind of genetic key. Genetic key? The system only responds to certain DNA patterns, and according to my analysis, those patterns are found in modern humans. Donghyun sat down heavily in the chair next to her. Around them, the hidden base buzzed with activity. Humans from dozens of colonies had quietly made their way here over the past 2 weeks, all of them knowing that something big was about to happen. So Elder Kethmaros was right, Donghyun said. We really are descended from the original gate, builders. More than that, Yujin said, finally looking up from her work. I've been comparing our DNA to samples from other species in the Dominion database. Humans have genetic markers that shouldn't exist in a naturally evolved species. What do you mean? I mean we were designed, Donghyun. The ancient humans didn't just build gates and spaceships. They built us. They modified their own descendants to interface with their technology. Before Donghyun could respond, alarms began ringing throughout the base. A voice came over the speakers. It was Jae-Sung Lee, broadcasting on the emergency frequency from Earth. All human colonies, this is. An alpha priority alert. Dominion military fleets are moving toward our territories. Repeat. Hostile fleets are approaching human space. This is not a drill. Donghyun was already running toward the command center, Yujin close behind. They found chaos. Dozens of people shouting orders, checking weapons, and preparing for a fight they weren't ready for. Report, Donghyun called out. 3 Dominion battle fleets, came the reply from the communications officer. They're not just heading for Earth, they're targeting every human colony simultaneously. How long do we have? 18 hours, maybe less. Yujin grabbed Donghyun's arm. The genetic key, I think I know how to break it, but I need access to one of those ancient stations, and I need it now. The nearest one is 12 hours away, and it's in the path of the Dominion fleet. Then we better hurry. 2 hours later, Yu-Jin found herself aboard Captain Sora Kim's ship again, racing through space toward another hidden facility. This time, they weren't alone. Dong-hyun had organized a small fleet of human ships, everything from cargo haulers to mining vessels. "This is insane," Mi Young-seo said from the engineering station. "We're flying toward a Dominion battle fleet with a bunch of cargo ships." "Maybe," Sora replied, "but we're also the only ones who know where the ancient stations are hidden." "Yu-Jin?" Taemin's voice came over the radio from another ship in their small fleet. "I've been thinking about what you said. If humans were designed to interface with gate technology, that means we might be able to do things the Dominion species can't." "Like what?" "Like control gates directly, without all those mechanical interfaces. The ancient writings I've been translating, they talk about something called passage consciousness, the ability to guide ships through gates using thought alone." Yu-Jin felt a chill of excitement. "If that's true, then we have a huge advantage. Dominion ships need massive gate facilities to travel between star systems. But humans might be able to create our own passages." They reached the hidden station just as Dominion scouts appeared on their sensors. The ancient facility was built into a dead moon, hidden by stealth technology that had been running for thousands of years. "You have 30 minutes, Dong-hyun announced over the radio. "After that, we'll have company." Yu-Jin and Taemin rushed into the station while the others prepared for battle. This facility was larger than the first one, with rooms full of technology that seemed to respond to their presence. "There." Taemin pointed to a central console that was already glowing as they approached. "That looks like the main computer." Yu-Jin placed her hands on the control surface and felt electricity run through her body. Information flooded her mind. Not words or pictures, but pure knowledge downloaded directly into her consciousness. She saw the history of the ancient human civilization, a species that had grown beyond physical limitations, learning to manipulate space and time itself. They had built the gate network not for conquest but for exploration, creating shortcuts between distant stars so they could spread life and knowledge throughout the galaxy. But something had gone wrong. A disaster that Yu-Jin couldn't quite understand. Something about the dangers of advancing too quickly, of gaining too much power without wisdom to guide it. The ancient humans had chosen to leave, to transform themselves into something beyond physical existence. But they had left safeguards behind and children to inherit their legacy when the time was right. "Yu-Jin!" Taemin's voice seemed to come from very far away. "The Dominion ships, they're here." Yu-Jin opened her eyes and realized she was still connected to the ancient computer. But now she could feel something else, the gate network itself, spreading across the galaxy like a web of light. And she could touch it, control it, shape it with her thoughts. "I can see them," she whispered. "All the gates. They're not separate machines. They're all connected, all part of one giant system." "The Dominion fleet is attacking our ships," Taemin said urgently. "We need to go." "No," Yu-Jin said, her voice getting stronger. "We need to fight back." She reached out through the network, feeling for the gates near the Dominion battle fleet. There, she could sense the massive portal generators on their ships, the mechanical interfaces they used to control passage through space. With a thought, she shut them down. Across the solar system, Dominion warships suddenly found themselves stranded as their gate drives went offline. Panic filled their communications channels as ships that had been preparing to attack human colonies were suddenly unable to retreat or call for reinforcements. "How did you do that?" Taemin asked in amazement. "I'm not sure," Yu-Jin admitted, "but I think I'm starting to understand what we're capable of." Over the next few hours, word spread throughout human space about what had happened. The impossible had occurred. Humans had somehow disabled an entire Dominion fleet without firing a shot, but Yu-Jin knew this was just the beginning. The ancient database was full of information about gate technology, advanced weapons and defensive systems that had been waiting 50,000 years for someone to claim them. On Earth, government officials scrambled to understand what was happening. Some wanted to negotiate with the Dominion, to find a peaceful solution. Others saw an opportunity to strike back against centuries of oppression. "We need to be careful," Jae Sung Lee announced in an emergency broadcast. "This power we've discovered, it's exactly what the Dominion feared. If we use it unwisely, we could start a war that destroys the galaxy." But in hidden bases throughout human space, people like Dong-Hyun Nam were already preparing for that war. Because they knew something the politicians didn't understand yet. The Dominion would never accept humans as equals. They would fight to keep control of the galaxy, no matter what the cost. And now, for the first time in 50,000 years, humanity had the tools to fight back. Yujin stood in the ancient station, still connected to the gate network, and felt the weight of her species' destiny. The ancient humans had left them a choice: use their power to dominate others as the Dominion had done, or find a better way forward. The decision would shape not just humanity's future, but the future of every species in the galaxy. Outside, the station, stars that had been forbidden to humans for centuries suddenly seemed much closer. The passages between worlds were opening, and this time, humanity would decide who could cross them. Sang-Ho had never wanted to be a hero. He was a quiet man who fixed machines and preferred working alone. But as he stood before the Master Gate at the center of the galaxy, surrounded by the largest fleet in galactic history, he knew that the entire future of spacefaring civilization rested in his hands. The Master Gate was nothing like the crude mechanical portals that other species used. It was a structure of pure energy and crystallized spacetime, stretching across thousands of kilometers and humming with power that had been building for 50,000 years. "Sang-Ho," came Admiral Wu Jin-han's voice over the radio. "Both human and Dominion fleets are in position. Are you ready?" "No," Sang-Ho replied honestly. "But I don't think anyone could be ready for this." Around the Master Gate, hundreds of ships waited in tense formation. Human vessels floated alongside ships from species that had joined their cause: the Luminous Ascendancy, some Vortaki research vessels, and even a few Saurus military units whose commanders had decided that change was better than extinction. Facing them across the vast space around the gate were the remaining Dominion loyalists, led by War Commander Broktul, and the few species who still believed they could maintain control through force. "Human technician," Broktul's voice crackled across all frequencies. "You do not understand the responsibility you carry. The Master Gate controls all travel between stars. In the wrong hands, it could cut off entire star systems, trap billions of beings or worse." "I know," Sang-Ho replied. "That's exactly why it can't stay in anyone's hands." He approached the central interface of the Master Gate, feeling its ancient consciousness reaching out to touch his mind. Unlike the smaller gates that humans had learned to control, this one was truly alive. An artificial intelligence created by the first gate builders to manage the entire network. "Hello?" a voice said directly into his thoughts. "I am the architect. I have been waiting a very long time to meet you. You're the AI that runs the gate network?" "I am more than that. I am the collective wisdom of your ancestors, preserved in crystallized thought and quantum memory. I was created to guide the network until humanity was ready to reclaim its inheritance." Sang-Ho felt information flowing into his mind. The true history of the ancient human civilization, the real reason they had vanished, and the choice that now faced their descendants. "Your ancestors reached a point where they could reshape reality itself," the architect explained. "But with that power came a terrible temptation, to force their vision of perfection on the galaxy, to remake other species in their own image. What stopped them? Wisdom. They realized that true advancement meant learning to share power, not hoard it. So they chose to leave the physical universe behind, ascending to a higher plane of existence. But they left the tools of their power, for you, their children, hoping you would learn to use them better." Around the Master Gate, tensions were rising. Some of the Dominion ships were powering weapons, clearly preparing to fight rather than accept change. "Sang-Ho," came Haiwan Jung's voice from the diplomatic ship. "The Dominion commanders are demanding an answer. Will you claim control of the Master Gate or not?" Tell them, Sang-Ho said, his voice carrying across all communication channels, that no one should control the master gate. That's the point. He placed his hands on the central interface and felt his consciousness expand across the entire galaxy. Through the gate network, he could sense every ship, every station, every inhabited world. He could feel the hopes and fears of billions of intelligent beings, all waiting to see what would happen next. I could take control, he announced, his voice now speaking directly into the minds of everyone present through the gate network. I could shut down any ship, isolate any world, remake the galaxy according to human wishes. Some of the human ships in the fleet began powering up their own weapons, thinking he was about to claim victory for their species. But that's not what humanity learned from this war. We learned that power shared is stronger than power hoarded. We learned that diversity creates solutions that no single species could discover alone. Working with the architect, Sang-Ho began reshaping the entire gate network. Instead of a centralized system controlled by whoever held the master gate, he created something entirely new, a democratic network that responded to the collective will of all species using it. From now on, he explained as the changes rippled across the galaxy, the gates will be controlled by consensus. No single species can shut down travel for another. No one can be cut off from the network unless they choose to leave. But what about security? Demanded War Commander Brucktul. What about maintaining order? The network itself will maintain order, the architect's voice joined Sang-Ho's explanation. Violence against civilians will result in automatic restrictions. Attacks on peaceful vessels will trigger defensive responses. But these safeguards cannot be overridden by any government or council. Engineer Jin Su-Kang, working from his ship in the human fleet, was already analyzing the technical implications of what Sang-Ho was doing. This is incredible, he reported. The new network design incorporates biological interfaces for humans, mechanical systems for species like the Saros, energy pattern recognition for the luminous ascendancy. Everyone can use their natural abilities to interact with gates in the way that works best for them. As the changes took effect, something unexpected happened. Ships throughout the galaxy began reporting improved gate performance. Travel times decreased, energy costs dropped, and navigation became easier for everyone. How is this possible? Asked Elder Kethmaros from his Vortaki research vessel. Because, Sang-Ho explained, still connected to the Master Gate, the ancient, humans designed the network to work best when all species contributed their unique abilities. The Dominion's attempt to control everything actually made the system less efficient. Over the following hours, reports came in from across the galaxy. Trade routes that had been expensive and dangerous became safe and profitable. Scientific expeditions could reach unexplored regions without political approval. Refugee ships fleeing. Disasters could find safe passage without bureaucratic delays. But perhaps most importantly, the fear that had driven the galaxy to war began to fade. When no one could control the gates, no one needed to fight for access to them. What happens now? Asked Haewon Jung as the diplomatic teams from dozens of species began arriving at the Master Gate to discuss the new galactic order. Now we explore, Sang-Ho said, finally disconnecting from the ancient interface. The gates don't just connect star systems in our galaxy. They can reach other galaxies, other dimensions, places that have been waiting 50,000 years for us to be wise enough to find them. Months later, Dr. Taemin Park stood on the observation deck of a new kind of starship, one built through cooperation between human intuition, Saros engineering, Vortaki crystal technology, and luminous ascendancy energy manipulation. They were preparing to pass through a gate that led beyond their galaxy, following signals that the architect believed came from the ascended ancient humans. Do you think we'll find them? Asked Hyunwoo Choi, who had become the expedition's lead scientist. I think, Taemin replied, watching the gate activate with energy patterns more beautiful than anything in the old Dominion network. We'll find whatever we're ready to find. And maybe that's the real lesson our ancestors wanted to teach us. That ship passed through the gate carrying representatives from dozens of species into unknown space. Behind them, The galaxy continued its transformation from an empire built on control to a community based on cooperation. And somewhere in the space between dimensions, ancient beings who had once been human watched their children take their first steps toward a future bright with infinite possibilities. The passage was open, and this time everyone was invited to cross. Admiral Wu Jin Han had never expected to command a fleet made up of cargo ships, mining vessels, and converted passenger liners. But as he watched the ragtag human forces hold their position against the Dominion's finest warships, he felt a pride he had never experienced during his years in Earth's small defense navy. "Admiral," came the voice of his communications officer, "we're receiving surrender requests from 3 more Dominion vessels. Accept their surrender and give them safe passage to neutral space," Wu Jin replied. "We're not here to conquer. We're here to defend our right to exist." The war had been raging for 3 weeks now, but it wasn't the kind of war anyone had expected. Instead of massive space battles with thousands of casualties, it had become something more like a chess game played across the galaxy. Humans would disable Dominion gate drives, stranding enemy fleets. The Dominion would respond by attacking human colonies with conventional weapons. Then humans would cut off the supply lines to those attack forces, leaving them helpless in empty space. "Sir," another officer reported, "Captain Sora Kim is requesting permission to attempt another deep strike mission." Wu Jin nodded. Sora and her crew had become legends among human forces. Using their small, fast ship and the natural human ability to navigate gates, they could appear anywhere in Dominion space without warning, strike key targets, and disappear before enemy reinforcements arrived. "Tell Captain Kim she's cleared for Operation Starlight," Wu Jin said. "But remind her, no unnecessary risks. We need every pilot we have." Across the galaxy, pilot Jun-Ki Yoon was preparing for his own mission. His experimental fighter, the Phoenix, had been built using technology from the ancient human databases. It was smaller than most Dominion fighters, but it could do something no other ship in the galaxy could do: create its own temporary gates. "Phoenix, leader, this is Control," came the voice in his headset. "You are clear for insertion into the Kepler system. Remember, the target is the Dominion command station. Disable their communications, then get out. Understood, Control. Beginning gate sequence." Jun-Ki closed his eyes and reached out with his mind, feeling for the fabric of space around his ship. This was still new to him: the ability to open passages between stars using only human consciousness and the ancient technology. But every time he did it, it felt more natural. Space twisted around the Phoenix, and suddenly he was thousands of light years away, hidden in the shadow of Kepler Station. The massive Dominion facility hung in space like a metal city, bristling with weapons and communication arrays. "Phoenix leader to all units," he whispered into his radio. "I'm in position. Beginning attack run." But as Jun-Ki prepared to attack, he received an unexpected message on a secure human frequency. "Human pilot, this is Regent Zalthun of the Luminous Ascendancy. Do not attack the station, we wish to speak." Jun-Ki hesitated. The Luminous Ascendancy were energy beings who had been part of the Dominion Council for centuries. Why would they want to contact him? "I'm listening," he replied carefully. "We have been watching this conflict with great interest. Your species has shown abilities that we did not expect. We believe it is time for a new approach to galactic governance." "You mean you want to surrender?" "We mean we want to join you." The implications hit Jun-Ki like a physical blow. If one of the major Dominion species was willing to switch sides, it could change everything about the war. "I'll relay your message to my superiors," he said, "but I still have orders to complete. The communication station you were sent to destroy. It is being used to coordinate attacks on human civilian populations. We will not interfere if you disable it." Jun-Ki made his decision. The Phoenix dove toward the station, weapons blazing. But instead of trying to destroy it completely, he targeted only the communication arrays, leaving the rest of the facility intact. As he fled through another self-created gate, Jun-Ki carried with him the knowledge that the war was entering a new phase. The Dominion was beginning to fracture. Back on Earth, Dr. Yoonji Park was making discoveries that would prove even more important than military victories. As a medical researcher, she had been studying how the war was affecting human biology. What she found amazed her. The stress of combat and gate travel should be killing our pilots, she explained to a gathering of military and scientific leaders. But instead, they're getting stronger. Their reaction times are improving, their spatial awareness is expanding, and their ability to interface with ancient technology is growing exponentially. What does that mean? Asked General Thrakmon, who was listening to the briefing via secure transmission. The reptilian Saros military leader had also begun secret negotiations with human representatives. It means, Yoonji continued, that the genetic modifications made by the ancient humans are still active in our DNA. Combat stress and exposure to gate technology are triggering evolutionary changes that have been dormant for 50,000 years. Evolution in real time? Asked Admiral Wu Jinhan. Exactly. We're not just remembering how to use ancient human technology, we're becoming more like our ancient ancestors. This revelation sent shockwaves through both human and alien leadership. If humans were evolving rapidly, gaining new abilities with each battle, then the balance of power in the galaxy could shift dramatically in a very short time. The Dominion response was swift and brutal. Supreme General Thrakmon, despite his private negotiations with humans, was forced to announce a new military strategy. The human contamination has spread too far, he declared to the remaining Dominion forces. We will implement final protocol, the complete sterilization of human space. Battle Prime Gorthak, commander of the largest Dominion fleet, began preparing for a direct assault on Earth itself. His massive dreadnoughts were equipped with weapons that could burn entire continents, and he had orders to use them if necessary. But, as the Dominion fleet approached the Sol system, they discovered something that changed everything. Earth was not defenseless. Hidden gates throughout the solar system suddenly activated, revealing defensive platforms that had been dormant for millennia. Ancient human weapons, controlled by the descendants of their creators, began targeting the invading fleet. This is impossible, Gorthak growled as his flagship shook under defensive fire. The humans have only been in space for centuries. They couldn't have built these defenses. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we're detecting massive energy signatures from Earth's moon. It appears to be hollow and artificial. Gorthak stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The moon wasn't just a natural satellite, it was a massive ancient human fortress, hidden in plain sight for 50,000 years. As Dominion ships fled from the unexpected defenses, a new voice spoke across all communication channels, human and alien alike. This is the voice of ancient humanity, the message began, though it sounded like it was being translated from something far older than words. We have watched our children grow and learn. We have seen them discover their heritage and begin to understand their true potential. But we have also seen the galaxy choose fear over wisdom, control over cooperation. The time has come for a final test, not of human worthiness, but of galactic wisdom. The message continued, reaching every ship, every station, every inhabited world. In 7 days, the Master Gate will be revealed. Whoever controls it will control all passage between the stars. Use this time wisely. Choose whether the galaxy will be ruled by those who build or those who destroy. As the message ended, Admiral Wu Jinhan looked out at the stars and realized that the real war was just beginning. Everything they had fought for, everything they had learned about their heritage, would come down to a single moment at a place none of them had ever seen. The Master Gate was waiting, and the entire galaxy would discover whether humanity had truly evolved beyond the mistakes that had doomed their ancestors 50,000 years ago.